Welcome back to the Wondercat channel, and after a brief discussion with someone in the comment section of one of my videos, I thought I'd do a video on this topic. I think it's actually the perfect topic to cover as well, since I actually started my Digimon journey this year as well. So what is it like getting into Digimon in 2025? Well, I guess it's ultimately dependent on whether you have access to cards and, how big the community around you is. But let's just imagine now that you have an LGS that runs events, it has a decent player base, and you're dipping your toes in to see if you like it. You might play other TCGs, who knows? Let's just say you just like Digimon. Digimon is a very similar card game to Yu-Gi-Oh! In the sense that a lot of the decks are thematic. The cards fit to specific themes or archetypes. For example, a lot of the Guilmon line cards, though printed across the past 5 years, will all tend to work with each other more than what they would with other Digimon. You'll notice that with most Digimon lines, by running its natural Digivolution line, you'll get reduced alternate Digivolution costs. As you can see on this example, Agumon level 4 will Digivolve off of a level 3 green or purple Digimon for 3 memory, but it can Digivolve off of a level 3 Agumon for 2 memory. Speaking of memory, the overall mechanics of the game and its memory gauge has certainly evolved over time. As someone who purchased a couple of boxes when the first set came out, and played a couple of games, I wasn't really impressed with it. The amount of potential memory gain and effects that can manipulate memory has led to interesting memory swings that genuinely makes the game's resource system fun and intuitive. The game has definitely evolved over the past 5 years, and it has sold me now than what it did when it first came out. But let's get back to deck building and the availability, accessibility process. What staples exist? How expensive is the game? Well, I've always been one to believe that a card game does need to have a sense of expensiveness because cheap card games die. BSS definitely followed this line of thinking. They tried to make what was considered a cheap game, despite boxes not being any cheaper than the average card game booster box. It flooded the market, killed the game on release. So having an expensive meta doesn't necessarily bother me, but expensive doesn't always mean it's top tier. Sometimes it's just rarity. There's a current outlier deck running around that is super cheap to build in comparison to a lot of its top tier brethren, but we'll discuss that later. But going back to staples, Digimon has what I like to think as 4 types of staples besides some semi-obvious exceptions. We have scrambles, memory boosts, trainings, and floodgate Digimon. All of these are actually pretty reasonably priced and accessible for a few reasons. The scrambles have been reprinted and reintroduced recently in amazing full art foils in the latest starter decks, where you get a single copy of each color. Each deck will also come with a unique art, which is pretty cool. So if you buy the Agumon or the Wargreymon deck, you're going to get one of each color in Scramble, but that art will be different to the one in the Metal Gururu deck. Scrambles are arguably the most niche staple of most decks, as they're a lot more situational, but they can still help you out close out games. These sit at around the $3 to $5 mark on average, depending on its printing, and with their most recent printings, it helped tank their prices dramatically. I mean, some of these were like $10 plus prior to this. Scrambles are a 2-cost option that will allow you to digivolve on top of something for a cost of 3 or less for free, essentially saving you a memory. This is why it's niche, because if your deck doesn't have that many 3+ Digivolution costs, you don't have that many reasons to run this. Its active delay effect, however, will allow you to top deck a Digimon and play a level 3 from your trash with 2000 DP or less for free at the start of your turn. This is going to be really relevant because a lot of level 3s have great on-play effects that will generate you value, so depending on your trash, a well-timed scramble can set you up on a later turn. Memory boosts are also great for Digimon heavy archetypes. A 3-cost dig 4 cards add 1 Digimon of the given color and add it to your hand. At a later turn, you can delay by sending the memory boost to your trash, gain 2 memory. These are usually run between 2 to 4 copies in most lists, so you're going to see those a lot more than these scrambles. There are also really cool LM hybrid versions, which allow you to add up to 2 colors. So we'll have a look at this Garnet memory boost right here. So you can add a red or a black card, but they'll only dig for 3 cards instead of the 4. So you've got more access to different Digimon, but you're going to see less cards. So good interesting trade-off. These are generally going to be run more than the scrambles because they're not as reliant on your trash. Your opponent can't generally interact with this once you play it. And extra saved memory means memory starving by your opponent isn't as tough on you. So even if you aren't set to 3 on your turn, your opponent passes you on 1 memory, having a memory boost from a previous turn will put you at 3 memory, which can allow you to do up to 3 potential actions before giving your opponent their turn back. Lastly, we'll talk about trainings. Trainings will cost 2. Dig 2 cards off the top of your deck, add 1 card of the given color. On delay, Digivolve for 2 less. So they're cheaper than memory boosts, but they dig less, but they can add any card of that color. So that's going to add tamers and options, not just Digimon. So if you're playing a tamer-centric list or a deck that cares specifically about option cards, then trainings may be better for you than memory boost. These costing 2 also means that they can be used to help starve out your opponent early game. Having 3 memory on your turn, playing a level 3 for 3 and then setting them to 2 with a training is pretty good. Or being at 3 memory, digivolving for 2 and then putting training down will set them to 1. These are, however, the most expensive of the 3 sets of cards, usually costing almost double or even more than the others, so keep that in mind. Memory starving can be a very efficient control method in this game. To try and limit your opponent's options and cheap costed cards can help with this. Out of the 3 cards discussed here, I personally like trainings the most, and I guess that also tracks, especially considering they're the most expensive. Memory boosts are fine, but the flexibility of trainings cannot be ignored. If you're interested in playing a single color deck, or just a single color in general because of its playstyle, or a particular archetype, like I was very drawn to Gilmon, picking up a playset of, let's say Blue Scramble for example, Blue Memory Boost and Mental Trainings, which are the Blue Trainings, shouldn't set you back more than $20-$30, which is pretty good for staples. If you're looking to get into competitive setting and you want to be able to build all colors, obviously I'm going to recommend you pick up a playset of each of them. You can generally pick these cards up as trade fodder because they're only going to be a couple of dollars each. Older people that have played the game for a while are going to have extras, so they're pretty easy to, have. People are going to have them laying around. It should not cost you more than $100 for a full playset of all of them, like reasonably. Be smart with your money here. If you have friends that are already in the game that are introducing you to it, they probably have extras as well. You really shouldn't spend anything close to that. People will also give these away to newer players, so make sure you reach out, but use your words, We're going to a locals. Don't be afraid to do a little bit of research beforehand, or maybe buy a box, go to an event before you actually intend on playing. Have a look around, see what the game actually has access to, The last kind of staple we will discuss, which was mentioned previously, is the Floodgate Digimon. These are all generally level 3 common, uncommon printed cards, so they should all be worth nothing, but super useful depending on the meta and the decks being played around you. Floodgate Digimon more or less exist as cards that state all turns, or opponent's turn, they cannot do X. This will help limit their game plan and allows you to play faster than them. Couple examples. We've got BT14 Gotsumon. He has the passive effect, all turns, players cannot play Digimon by effects. This card creates back-breaking board states alongside Medieval Gallantmon, which we will discuss. Gotsumon, whilst impacting you, as it says players, not just your opponent, can be run in a red deck that doesn't look to play Digimon with effects, meaning it will only impact your opponent. Gotsumon into things like Paildramon and Adventure can slow down their deck dramatically and force them to waste removal on it, which is a bonus for all parties involved. I recommend picking up playsets of these types of cards whenever you get the chance. These could hopefully find their way into bulk bins and chaffed around your locals, or older, more experienced players will have spares laying around. Always ask. Come on, use our words. BT5 Syakomon states, opponent's turn, your opponent cannot reduce Digivolution costs. This is an insane effect, impacts both scrambles and trainings as they both reduce Digicost. BT3 Terriamon is also quite strong. During all turns, your opponent cannot gain memory except with tamer effects. Because on deletion effects grant memory, and the likes of memory boosts and things like Galaxy Toolbox's Lunamon generate value through memory gain but aren't tamers, Terriamon can put in a lot of work. There are more. You should definitely look to add these cheap cards to your collection while looking to get into the competitive format. While discussing Floodgate Digimon and mentioning him, I guess we should also talk about Medieval Gallantmon. This card is an absolute powerhouse and can control the board like nobody's business. Currently sitting at around 80 to 90 USD, over 120 Australian. This guy fits into any red or green list, can be played for 7, which isn't a lot if you're starting your turn on 3 or 4 memory, and instantly generates value by popping something. Whenever an opponent plays a Digimon, activate his destruction effect again, or his when digivolving effect, which, yep, blows things up. I don't want to go into the nitty gritty of the card. Feel free to pause the video, read it if you haven't already, but the card just screams control value. It's 100% a necessary staple if playing red and green lists, and you will see it at your locals often. So we've discussed some of the staples needed to play. They're pretty cheap, which is awesome on your wallet. They're also fairly easy to get a hold of, which means that you've chosen your deck, you're getting those staples, it should be the easiest part of your job. But what are the costs of decks in general? Well, that's going to fluctuate depending on your wallet for sure, and your personal tastes, I guess. But like stated earlier, money doesn't always equal free wins. A very vagrant outlier currently is Digimon, a deck that outside a couple specific cards, it's realistically like all bulk. It's like 20-30 bucks. With a couple of extra bits and pieces, primarily analog youth at the moment, you're looking at closer to about $100, which is pretty decent for something that's considered highly competitive at the moment. At the same time, we've got decks like Gallantmon, which is going for like 500 plus, can go well over 1,000 if you want to foil that bad boy out. There are decks like Zephagamon, you can build for 100, 200-ish. Puppets, which depending on your build can cost between 40-ish to 100. You just invest in a couple of the starter decks, you grab a few singles, you're golden. But that's just constructed competitive. If we're looking at regulation or the pauper format, if you're more into just, you're playing because you enjoy it, you have fun. We can only use cards that are common and uncommon. Deck building becomes so much more niche. Deck power levels shrink, games feel much less swingy, more fun, and generally fairer. In a game where we have Examon Ace, and why does this card have so many keywords, man? I hate this card so much. Nothing makes me happier than an alternate format where deck building is so much harder because the restriction makes decks lose a lot of their real win cons. But if we look at Pauper, most decks you can build are just you build them for free. You can look through bulk chaff. You're going to find cores. You're going to find decks, cards that introduce sets like EX8 introduces a lot of Tyrannomon stuff. You can play a lot of this Agumon Tyrannomon stuff. Very, very easy to find bulk from a particular set and then build a potential deck out of it. BT 1920 introduced Axel, which we've previously covered a Axel list on this channel already. It was a little bit spicy. It was quite different, which is what I liked about it. And that deck is almost perfectly able to be played. It loses access to 2 cards currently. Almost the entire deck is common and uncommon. It's so strong. But yeah, the format's incredibly fun. It's one of the best ways, at least in my opinion, to enjoy and learn Digimon in a cheap and efficient manner before potentially investing hundreds of dollars into a proper competitive deck. It is definitely something. If you really want to give the game a go, yeah, just build it. Build a Pauper deck. Just see if you really like how the game plays. If you like how the game plays, find something that costs a little bit more, like we said, we're dipping our toes in, It seems that Digimon is just going through this experimental phase at the moment, as Regulation Volume 2 is currently on the horizon, where they have changed up the format or ruling for deck building again, forcing us to use 30 cards with specific traits, or that specific archetype. I've built a list for this format, and I will share it in future, but I doubt this particular format's going to see too much more interest than Pauper or Standard Constructed. It is a lot more limited in what we can play. I don't know how they think it's gonna play. We'll have to see. But we've discussed potential formats, some staples, some deck prices. What about purchasing actual product? Well, unsurprisingly, each set is more or less built around a specific theme. BT22, being released soon, is built upon the Digimon Cyber Sleuth game and is a much anticipated set from what I've heard. I have just recently started playing the Cyber Sleuth myself and have immensely enjoyed it. I can't put it down. This means that a lot of its inspiration will be built around the Digimon that we see in that game specifically. So when we want to deck build in this game or look to purchase a particular set, we need to basically know before the fact what it is we're looking to build. For example, I knew when I was coming into Digimon that I wanted to play Guilmon. He's a cute little dinosaur guy. When spoiler season starts for a new set, keeping an eye on the card list can show you if there's anything you may need to pick up. EX8, the set that I started with, gave us an amazing line of Guilmon cards centered around the X antibody trait. BT19 and 20 was released, gave us a new Tamer card, as well as a new Guilmon, Growlmon, War Growlmon line. So obviously I was interested in both sets to an extent. Being able to pick up singles, I could focus on grabbing what I needed for my Guilmon collection and potential deck upgrades, as well as putting everything else I pull into a trades binder. BT21 is released, World Convergence, and it's like Christmas, we get even more Guilmon stuff, but this time it's a little different. The cards are centered more around deleting themselves rather than deleting your opponent's board. Megidramon is released, and now a new budget Guilmon list is made, a fraction of the Gallantmon deck that's currently in play. In terms of cost, it's putting up more results competitively. It's wild. So I guess what I'm saying is just paying attention to the resources you have available, being in the know for what you're actually looking to buy can save you a lot of potential anxiety and surprise when new sets are released. Something I haven't mentioned, something I should probably bring up before we tie things up in a nice bow, the format as a whole and the ban list. Digimon functions a lot like Yu-Gi-Oh! It's an eternal format where you can use all cards in existence outside the few that have been banned or restricted. There are some odd bits and pieces, pair bannings and such. If you play one card, you can't play another. Definitely something you'll need to look into. What this means is that archetypes and Digimon as a whole will always have the potential to be upgraded and gain new, stronger support in the future. If you have a particular favorite Digimon, let's say it's Armadillomon, you'll know that if you have Armadillomon cards, later on down the line, we might get more Armadillomon cards. It's cool. It's awesome. So even if the cards aren't worth something now, getting rid of them isn't always the smartest idea. But whilst we're in the Digimon Liberator era, we're seeing plenty of cards relating to the main characters of the comic. The Shumon and Terramon starter decks have been given some really sweet upgrades between EX7, which was Digimon Liberators, and EX8, which was Digimon Liberators Chain of Liberation, I think it was called. And EX9 is looking to continue that tradition with Shumon getting a potential new top-end boss monster, Kaguyamon. Very, very cool. But what's my best piece of advice for you? Well, personally, I would say, obviously, knowing your product, knowing what you want to get in or get out of Digimon. Find a color or an archetype that you're interested in playing. Same goes for format. If you're on a budget and you enjoy more balanced gameplay, try to find or push the pauper format, find people around your locals that want to play it, play with friends at home, purchase the appropriate staples for the said deck and color that you may play. Do your research, look up cards associated with that archetype, pick up what older cards you can. As someone who came into this game, I had 5 years worth of Guilmon cards to to try and dig for. A lot of the cards that are played at the moment were, rather new. But being able to have some of these older ones, you can play a trash mill Guilmon deck in Pauper, which is really cool. I've played against it and it's beaten me. There are exceptions to this, of course. You can look at the EX4 Medieval Gallantmon versus the EX8. The EX8, the 120 Australian dollar card, very, very strong. The EX4 Medieval Gallantmon, you're probably never going to play it. It's just been power crept and it's not a great card. I personally pick it up because it looks pretty sick and I just love, I want to collect every Guilmon card there is. But getting into Digimon in 2025 didn't really seem or feel all that hard for me personally. The game mechanics are rather straightforward outside the occasional niche interaction. The game is popular enough that singles are readily available. Staples like scrambles are put into starter decks, enticing newer players and more experienced players alike to pick them up and increase the effectiveness of their competitive decks. Whilst on the subject of starter decks, Digimon has been toying with some more limited card pools lately, throwing potential lottery cards into their products, making sure that you always check out the value of your cards using TCG Player. I love using the app Collector as a way to share my binder with people and keep track of what I have without needing to carry my binder around with me or just pulling it out of my bag. I can always just whip out my phone, search up a card. Oh, I've got 3 of them. I guess I need one more for my collection. This is by no means an ad for either of them. They're just both very good resources to use for collection management. Events will usually go for the same amount of time as what most other events should for other TCGs, 40 to 50 minute rounds, best of 3 formats, unless your locals decide to do differently. My biggest concern for these sorts of games and TCGs as a whole is that events need to be held during the evenings to ensure those working during the day have time to actually play. What this usually means is that you will have nights where you might be leaving the event past 9 or 10 p.m, and that can be far too late for the regular worker. Me, myself, I might not get home till almost 11 for one event. It's absolutely wild. This isn't a personal problem for me. You know, I'm always willing to sacrifice a couple hours of extra sleep during the week for my card game addiction. Some people don't want to do it though. I've had quite a few conversations with more experienced Digimon players in the past 6 months. From what I can tell, Digimon only seems to be increasing in popularity as a card game, as well as overall player satisfaction. Popular parts of the IP are being released through their sets, which gives every Digimon player a set or 2 in particular that they can focus on to pick up the cards that they need. As someone who has built only a couple of strong constructed decks, I invested a lot of money into my Gallimon stuff. I know that I basically don't have to purchase anything new unless a new card fitting my deck is released, in which case I'm not spending hundreds of dollars again to keep up with the meta. Oh, man. Just, you know, I used to love playing Magic and I used to love playing Commander. And as much as they say, hey, you don't need to buy every set, you just want to always upgrade. But, you know, in Digimon, do we have X archetype? Do we have X Digimon in it? No? Then it's fine. We don't need to play it. Don't need to spend money. It's so relieving. It's not a set where it's just cards being pushed in your face like, you need this card, you know it's better than what you already have, you want to spend your money on it, it's going to be a $20 card, and you know it's only $20 now, but there's going to be another $20 card next set, and then another $40 card. Oh, God. Oh, yeah, love Magic, don't we? But I guess we can also touch on the meta real quick while we're at it. You know, 2025 meta, where are we? Whilst there are going to be some obvious boogeymen of the format, something I like about Digimon is the vastness of its meta. It might just be a top 3 deck format, but there's like 10 to 15 tier 2 decks that perform just as well. What that means is that there's plenty of breathing room for decks to bounce up and down at locals, and while you're not always going to play the same deck every round, I have a locals that I go to that is, you know, 5 or 6 players, and they come with different decks all the time. At the same time, I have a locals I will attend that has 25 plus players, and I can't even tell you that, you know, I've maybe played against the same guy maybe once or twice, and I've been going for the past 6 months. So being able to alternate between people that come in and out, and just, you know, being paired up between different people as well, it just makes for great overall gameplay, and you don't feel, I don't know, the monotonous nature of just, oh hey, look, we'll use Examon. It's an Examon deck, and because Examon's good at the moment, you're round 2 opponents also playing Examon, and you know, you skip round 3, and round 3 is, I don't know, Wind Guardians. Someone's trying Wind Guardians at the moment. And then round 4 is another Examon. You know, that's not happening, thankfully. But yeah, I think the game is certainly doing well in 2025. Product is almost impossible to get a hold of, at least here, because it's so popular. Stock is so limited. Unlike other card games, nothing but positivity is said about this game as a whole. I could complain about a few things personally. I mean, there's a reason why I enjoy playing Pauper, and, you know, the less competitive version of the game. There are some things I wish I could change, but we're not going into that today. But if you're looking to get into competitive, this might not be the channel for you. I've been enjoying playing for fun decks that are centered around the Pauper format, and even though I still play competitive, but I love the freedom of deck building in more casual environments. And you can always look up a top 10 decks of March, April, May, June, and every time a new deck comes out, or every time a new set comes out, you can just go online and go, what's the highest and the most winningest deck of this format, and just copy paste it into a online Digimon fucking game, and you can test that and go, I really want to build Royal Knights, or I really want to play Pale Dramon, or I really want to play Red Purple Imperial Dramon. But that's not fun for me. I love deck building, and I love that creative freedom, and that's what I get out of Pauper. But anyway, I hope if you start your Digimon journey within this year, or possibly even the next, who knows who could be watching in a year or two, I hope you find its entry as easy as I did, because I can only praise this game and the community as a whole for how chill and respectable it is. It's definitely raised the bar in terms of TCG communities, and I will always look forward to my weekly events. Thanks for listening, and I will see you in the next video. Ta-ta.